Welcome to Beyond the Velvet Rope with Neal Oates Jr., the podcast that takes you on an extraordinary journey into the world of luxury service. Join us as we unlock the secrets, stories, and strategies behind exceptional experiences. From anticipating VIP needs to crafting unforgettable memories, we'll guide you on a path to service excellence in the realm of the affluent. Let's elevate your expertise and redefine the art of world-renowned service. Here's your host, Neal Oates Jr.
Welcome to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Neal Oates Jr. Today's guest is Dave Valentine, a former agency founder, a CEO, CRO, business coach, and strategist. He's currently the Chief Revenue Officer of Finch, a performance agency growing e-commerce brands through digital advertising. Dave has been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, and TEDx for his ability to drive results that simplify growth and help business owners find freedom as they scale. Welcome Beyond the Velvet Rope, Mr. Dave Valentine. How are you, sir?
Doing great. How are you doing, Neal?
I'm doing fantastic. So I just shared a little bit about who Dave Valentine is. Would you share with our audience maybe something that I did not say? Who is Dave Valentine?
Yep. So this is the 11th business that I've owned. I've exited 9 of the previous 11. Flight school that I own with my brother, some other agencies, some SaaS products, and the only other one that I haven't sold was my consulting firm that had my name on it. And then I'm actually currently the CEO here at Finch, not just the CRO. And so I live in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, about an hour north of Portland, Oregon, on a river. And I watch bald eagles fly up and down the river every day, and the salmon spawn about 50 feet off my back deck. So it's a quiet, enjoyable life.
Okay, so Dave, you said a lot right there, and we're going to dive into some of that. Now, you mentioned that it's a quiet, enjoyable life, but we had some discussion before coming on air, and that's not always the case because sometimes life does life, and you find yourself in one of these just ups and downs, or we're just going to say life doing what life does, but you have a great perspective and viewpoint philosophy on that. Would you just share in the tough times? Because I think some of our audience might find themselves here, and we're going to talk about digital and how to scale. But what if you find yourself in turmoil at the moment? Would you share a little bit with them?
So in all the businesses that I've owned, I've had some that are really, really huge. I've had some that are really tiny. The one that I'm currently operating with, Finch, is a good size agency. We got 50 people across the globe, and there are challenges with it currently. And so one of the things that I tell the executive team whenever we're encountering challenges, I say, man, this is a great episode, right? Because if it was an episode of a TV show and all this turmoil is going on and there are all these challenges, it's like, that's a great episode. That's what we love, right? We don't want the episode where the guy, sells the $1 million plus contract and he goes and buys the Beamer and he's just, woo, this is great. It's like, no, you want the tension. You want the turmoil. You want the challenge. And so reframing that to just say, man, this is a great episode. I wonder how they're going to get out of this one, right? And I think that there's another philosophy too there, Neal, that has really helped with all this as well, which is, when you play a board game with friends or family, I always talk about it in Monopoly terms. It's really awkward, uncomfortable even if somebody plays it seriously. I love to get the green and the green places on there. I forget what they're called now. I need to go look this up. I haven't played Monopoly in forever. But, as people are coming down the way, if they land on one of your properties and they have a hotel on it, if they slam their fist on the table and they're like, this is crap, and they start going crazy, you're like, bro, calm down. But if you play it sincerely, then you say, ooh, you're getting close to my properties. You're going to land on one. I know you're going to roll that 5. You're going to roll it, right? And there's a humor to it. And so as you and I were talking about some of the details of what's going on earlier, I was laughing about it. And I I laughed about it with the executive team today, not once or twice, but 100 times over the past few weeks as things have been transpiring. And it's part of the game of playing life is playing it sincerely. And so it's not that you don't work hard, it's not that you don't try. No, that's part of the game too. And you can also work hard and try with a smile and with a giggle.
Right. So you've mentioned the 10 companies, now 11 companies that you have owned, that you've built. You have been modest and humble. You have not talked about the amount of revenue that has been generated. And we're talking about the numbers that start with the letter B, that's bigger than million. And so that's a very big deal, ladies and gentlemen. So you're listening here to someone who has done it, but then done it at a very high level. But here's the key: you didn't do it for yourself. You did it for your clients and help them achieve success. But I want to go back to the beginning, if you would, Dave, and what drew you into this world of performance marketing and e-commerce? Because you mentioned a flight school, you mentioned other ventures. What brought you to this side of the coin?
One of the things that I grew up with was I grew up in a Christian home. Actually, this is something I don't talk about very often, Neal. This will be fun. Few people know this. I'm an ordained pastor, which is funny on every level to me now. But there was a time in my life where I really thought that that's what I was going to do. In fact, I was a student pastor for a little bit. There is something that is beautiful. There's so many things that are beautiful about the human spirit, and one of them is our desire to help each other. And so for me, I have an expertise in marketing, advertising, and sales because I know that that's something that most people don't have. And I'm a massive believer in small businesses are the solution to a lot of our ills in
Yes,
our
sir.
country and across the globe. And so 69% of all Americans work for a small business. The US SBA defines small business as any company that has 500 or fewer employees. So when you think about it, we have the lion's share, and I'm in that boat too. We have the lion's share of employees in the country are employed by a small business. What's interesting to me is we have a smaller voice than the 31% because they are
Right.
paying lobbyists. And one of the things that is true is that for every dollar that a company or nonprofit or political action group spends in lobbying, they get $44 back, which is higher than you can get for almost any ad campaign. And
Mhm.
so what I love to do, what drew me in was this idea that we can create economies with good marketing, good advertising, and good sales. And then we can start to change that. So what drew me in, honestly, was a desire to help.
Okay. And you've continued to do that in everything that you do. So I want to ask you, just coming from this spirit of helpfulness and adding value, you see all of these founders and business owners, entrepreneurs, they hit this ceiling. Right. And so they come in and they say, hey, I have these big dreams initially. They hit the ceiling and then they don't know what to do. They don't know who to follow. They find themselves calling, emailing, speaking to Dave or someone from his team. How do you help them determine if it's a strategy issue, an execution problem, an alignment issue? How do you go about that piece? Because many of my listeners, I'm willing to bet, they have the dream, they have the motivation, they have the idea, but now they're saying, well, is this strategy? Is it execution? Is it alignment? Is it me? How do you go about that in your role? And how does Finch help those entrepreneurs, those founders, maybe recognize and address some of those issues?
Ooh, such a good question, Neal. All right, so let's take this in pieces. So, how do we
Yes, sir.
identify first, right? So, the first thing that I like to look at before I even look at what their strategy is, what their creative is, I just like to make sure that their ads are set up properly or that their SEO is set up properly. 9 times out of 10, what I find, what my team finds, they're not set up properly. The tracking is not set up correctly. So therefore, whenever it goes from a Google ad to a conversion, it's not firing right. And so therefore, Google may see like an add to cart For example, I just saw this last week. A client had an add to cart as the conversion point. And we were like, hey, you guys want actually them to make a purchase, right? And they said, well,
Right.
yeah, that's of course. So the first thing we did was reset that as the appropriate conversion. So number one, we look at, hey, are the things set up properly? Most of the time, again, even when we work with other clients that are working with other agencies, unless they're an agency of size, which we are, we have 50 people globally. That's not normal, by the way. We're in the top 0.1% of agencies across the globe as far as size and management of spend. A lot of times it's just not set up right. Easy fix most of the time, sometimes a little bit technical, but that's kind of the way it goes.
Now, hold on right there, Dave. So you
Sure.
mentioned easy fix to someone who knows what they're doing, right?
Correct.
So for you, you're like easy fix, but it's not the fix, ladies and gentlemen. It's identifying that there was an issue in the first place. And that's where Dave and his team, they come in. And so I don't want us to say, Dave said it was easy, I can do it on my own. That's because they know what to look for. And I didn't want the people to miss that, Dave. So go ahead and continue, sir.
No, that's great. I mean, just to put that in perspective for the listeners, last year alone, we spent over $36 million on behalf of our clients on ad platforms across the world. So, and this year we're on pace to do closer to 50. And so when we talk about scale here, it's crazy, right? And so when, last year alone, the company attributable revenue, meaning like they clicked on it and we were able to track them via cookies. There's some places in the world that doesn't work, one. And two, cookie reduction has made it so that we're only tracking about 40% of
Right.
all transactions. So what that means is the number I'm about to throw out is going to be low. We were able to track about $300 million worth of sales through that 36 million. So that being said, you're right. Identifying it is hard. It's good to have an expert to do it. A lot of times we have small companies and brands that come to us and they just go, can you do an audit? Like they pay us to do an audit and we say, here are the things that are wrong. Here are the things we'd change. And they take that information, they go execute it on their own, right? Because it is a problem. When it comes to like strategy, that requires someone that knows what they're doing, that's been in the space for a long time, frankly. So it requires myself, it requires one of my other business partners in the company, or it requires one of our strategists. A lot of times when it comes down to strategy, it is simply this is going to be, I'm going to say simply again, Neal. It's simply a misunderstanding of what the customer actually cares about versus what we're providing. And that is not something that is simple. It requires someone I've been doing this 20 years now, right? So like I can see the pattern recognition for me is very, very quick. It's almost like going to a doctor or going to a car mechanic or going to someone that is looking at a problem and they can call it out, even if it's something that is odd or unique or different. I have an expertise in here. I've gone way over the 10,000 hours. So when I look at a strategy, there is something to being able to assess really quickly why or why not it's working. And then the other thing that I look at is, what is the creative that we're leading with? So we think about creative in terms of like social media ads. What's the video? What's the image? But the copy also matters. How long it is. There are certain constraints on different platforms that make it so that like on Meta, for example, the headline is actually at the bottom of the ad. And there's a point like how many characters you can use before it becomes truncated and it just gives you an ellipses. So a lot of people mistakenly put in this really brilliant headline that no one can read, right? And so it's stuff like that. It's the subtleties, the details, the little things. I mean, I'll give you a good example of this, Neal, because I think it'll be helpful to the audience. There was a client that we were working with that they were doing their own creative and they're running their ads and they were getting good. We were running their ads, their media placement. They were getting good results, but not great. And so I went to them and I said, hey guys, let us write the copy. We're going to use the exact same image. Let us write the copy. So we tweaked it. And all we did was we took their copy from like 5 paragraphs on Meta. And it was long, big college words, right? Like SAT words. And we made it so that it was like 4th grade level reading because that's what people want, right? They don't want to burn a whole lot of calories. And so we made it very simple. We made it very direct. We made it very clear. We took their return on ad spend. They were getting $2 for every dollar they spent before. which is fine. It was not up to our standards. We took them, when we turned that on, they went from a 2 to 1 to a 6.5 to 1 in a 10-day time period. And the client was like, how did you guys do this? Small tweak, just the copy, big change. And so that's one of the things that we're firm believers in is test new things out, right? The worst thing that can happen is you find out what doesn't work. Man, that is just as valuable as finding out what does.
Good stuff. So Dave, I do want to ask you, because you're going down some of the things that if we're coming in and we're seeing that we have issues or that we're not, our ads and everything isn't performing, is there something that you and your team see that we might just consider the biggest mistake that is made from a brand, from a company, entrepreneur, when trying to scale their paid ads, right? Is there something that you're saying, hey, this is the one that we see most frequently?
Yeah, it's a misalignment of platform for where they're advertising and where their audience lives. I can't tell you how many times I'm talking with a brand and they're like, what? And I ask them, what do you need right now? And if it's a smaller brand, and I'm going to call a smaller brand anything that's under 3 million in revenue, just so we're clear, they're going to talk about one thing. I need more sales. I need more sales. I need more sales. I need more sales. For most of those brands, what they're then doing to generate more sales is they're going to websites, Instagram and Facebook, which can have what we call bottom of the funnel activity, people that are like ready right now to make a purchase. And there are some people that will do that. It's not going to have a high return on ad spend, more than likely. And it's people that are not browsing, they're not shopping per se, they're scrolling and we're interrupting their scroll. When you need a bottom of the funnel, right? What I really recommend is Google Shopping ads, if that's what you're looking for, or Google Lead Gen ads, if you're doing B2B. Why? You can do search, and people are searching for solutions, meaning they are coming to the internet going, man, I'm raising my hand. Neal, I need help. Like, I need help in this space. I need help over here. So that's a great place to start. If you're like, man, I need sales, search is where it's at. By the way, this is a great nugget for this audience. Bing ads, so Microsoft ads in general, are crushing because of all the anti-monopoly stuff that happened with Google in the past couple
Right.
years. There's a huge shift in search. And so more people are going over to Bing to do their searches. And what that's resulting in is that Bing is becoming a very viable spot to have a high return on ad spend or a high return on my cost per lead. So my cost per lead on Google may be $120. On Bing, we're seeing it be less than half that. So for a lot of our lead gen clients, they're averaging about $48 per lead. There's not as much lead traffic. That being said, it's a cheaper place to be. So as that shift continues to happen, that's where I'd be. But I think just in general here, like some things that I think about too are, there are places that some of us should be and we're not. One of our clients was not on Pinterest as an advertising platform. We put them on Pinterest. Side note, they sell baby stuff, right? Cribs, decor, changing tables, all that kind of stuff. What do moms do? Babies. I've got 3 kiddos. Neal, you got any kids?
I have a 17-year-old young man.
Oh, okay, all right, there you go. So, man, when we were about to have our first daughter, my wife lived on Pinterest, right? And she was planning. So this is where that strategy plus the location that I'm talking about comes in. So I said, hey, let's put you on Pinterest, and we're going to set the time for attribution to 60 days instead of what everybody else would do is 7. And the reason why is Pinterest is fundamentally a different platform. We use it. I don't use it. My wife uses it. It's 91% of users on Pinterest are women, right? So I'm not speaking out of turn. I'm just using stats.
Right. Good enough.
They use it to plan. People that use Pinterest, they use it to plan. So when we did that, their return on ad spend, Neal, they were getting like a 5 or 6 to 1 on Google. I think they were getting a 7.5 on Meta. Their return on ad spend on Pinterest is a 33 to 1. Because right platform, they're giving them the right amount of time, and then they have a high cost, high value item, which works great for Pinterest. So it's really putting people on the right platform. That's where people struggle.
Got you. Now, here's something. So I know that you do what we would consider unconventional marketing. I would consider thinking of Pinterest as unconventional, right?
Sure.
But the idea of you looking at things that not everyone is doing and yielding real results for your clientele. Do you have another example of something like that first to maybe help us change our mind? Because, well, let me ask you this first, Dave. Were they initially open to going onto Pinterest, or was there any pushback or hesitance at all?
They were open to it because they were already at scale on two other ad platforms,
Mm-hmm.
Google and Meta. I mean, they were spending hundreds of thousands a month on those platforms. So when we came to them, we said, listen, we want to do 10K a month for 3 months. Let's try it out. We're going to have a 60-day attribution window. So it's going to take us time. We don't think we're going to get great results until we're out of month 2 and into month 3. That's when we're going to start to see people really engage. And so they said yes to it. One of the things that is challenging as far as trying out some of these new platforms is that you're going to have risk no matter what. But there's also the risk in not trying. Because what if it's their best ad platform now, right? What if it's the one that takes you to the next level? And so that's part of the conversation as well, is we have to be willing to fail in order to find those great successes.
Okay, so Dave, I'm listening to you. We're listening to you as an audience, and we have these people who are already working with you, and you're getting them great results. What do you say to the person who is on the fence and they've gone as far as they could go themselves, right? And they're afraid of working with someone because you mentioned the top percentile that Finch is in, right, as an agency, but then they've seen all these horror stories, and they're like, well, I wanted to give them a shot, but someone said in order for me to even have a conversation with them, they were going to charge me $50 for a 15-minute conversation. So they have the desire to grow. They're wanting to go further than they have, and they've been doing the Meta, the Google ads themselves, and it's not working. What do you say to someone who is reluctant to come and say, well, I just want to have a conversation, but I'm doing really bad and I don't want to open up my books and I don't want to show because then it's humbling? What do you say to that owner, that entrepreneur, that creator?
Never have I ever made a good decision based out of fear.
Come on, sir.
It's just, it's so easy to be afraid. I get it. Let's be real about it. Everything you want's on the other side of fear, man. Everything you want. There came a point in my life where doing my taxes myself was no longer feasible. So I hired somebody, a tax guy. First guy I hired was really good. I thought, sweet man, liked him. Reasonably priced. And then I went to go buy a house, and my realtor said, hey, we need your taxes to be tuned up. This is not going to help us because I was a business owner, and part of being a business owner is we try not to have a whole lot of cash.
Come on, Dave, let's go.
And so I went to, per her recommendation, found a new CPA. This guy was 10 times more expensive than the other guy. He was not kind, by the way. He's real gruff, funny, but gruff. And he was like, dude, this is a disaster and this is a problem. I paid him more. I've been working with him for 8 years now. Man, he saved me tens of thousands of dollars that the other guy could not. He's more expensive, yes, but the value exchange is where it's at. So whenever someone's afraid and they're like, man, this is going to cost a lot. What if they don't work as well as I need them to? Well, okay, then they don't work as well as you needed them to, and you'll find somebody else. But like, I would never come in and be like, you know what I'm great at? Being a chief financial officer. I know how to balance a checkbook, but I should not be a CFO, man. That's just not my expertise. I hire people that have that expertise because I'm out of my depth. And a lot of times whenever we're entrepreneurs, and I've been there, we're expected to clean the toilets and sell the clients and keep the customers happy and QA the products. And the honest truth is, if you want to grow and you want to have things be different, you're going to have to take some risk. And it's okay to try something out and have it just not work And it's also okay if you try something out and you're like, oh my gosh, this worked out 10 times better than I expected. And we have I'll
Yeah.
just share this anecdotally, Neal, because I think this is a prudent spot to do so. We created a program for people to try out advertising with a big agency. And because we have people that come to us all the time. They're like, hey, I'm spending a couple $1,000s a month in ads. I've went through 3 agencies. They've all been small, or it was an agency or a freelance or whatever. And I just feel like I've got to try it now. And so what we do is we have a program where it's only $1,000 a month for our services, but they get our team. And then we start getting them results and they go, oh my gosh, I can actually pay my bills and everything's going better. And whoa. And so then they say, okay, well, how do we grow this thing? Right. And so
Right.
it's a program that we put them on for 6 months to give them an opportunity to see what it's like to work with a great team that actually knows what they're doing. And then we scale from there. And so I think that that's another way that people can engage is we're trying to create a space in the agency world where small companies that do have that fear can work with an agency that's really big. We work with Fortune 500 brands and get that kind of service, but they're small. And so I think that that's part
Right.
of the thing there too.
Absolutely. I love that. And as you were talking about the CPA being expensive and even Finch, what you all have done, one of my mentors told me early on to adopt the slogan tagline that I'm expensive, but I'm not overpriced. Right.
That's right.
And so what is the cost of not doing business with me? So I tell people I'm more expensive than a car, but I'm not as much as a mansion. Right. So that way they can say, okay, well, that's a broad range depending on the car. Right. And so I love that. Now, you also, and I believe it's one of your key philosophies that you want to help brands, businesses grow, right? But you also don't want to sacrifice the well-being of their team or your team as well, right? So how are we growing businesses? How are we scaling? But then also making sure that the people still have the physical, mental, spiritual health to enjoy the results and the fruits of their labor.
Okay. Neal, there's so much to dive into here. One of the reasons why I believe in small businesses being the path forward, I have never talked to a small business owner that didn't want to pay their people more. It hasn't happened. Everybody that I've talked, even the ones that you're like, man, that guy, whoa. Even the guys you're like, whoa, they're like, man, of course I want to pay my people more, of course. And it's a fundamentally different experience compared to a large corporation where they're like, this is the block that we have. This is the range for that position. It's across the board. Everybody gets it. Some of the things that we've done in the past, some of the things I've done in the past, and then some of the things we're doing now at Finch. Some of the things I've done in the past, I've found really remarkable staff members. And I started a business with them. I funded that business and I gave them huge equity in the firm. And then I put a team around them and I funded it fully. And then when we exited, they got some of that, right? And so they got to reap the benefits. Part of it is giving away some of that expertise and knowledge to help people grow. And you do that with A players sometimes. In other ways, there's a lot of people that, man, they don't want to do that. They just want a job. They want to feel secure. They want to be good. So some of the things that we do, we track hours every single week for our staff. And we're asking one important question. How many employees worked over 40 hours? Not on the executive team. Executive team doesn't count. How many employees worked more than 40 hours? Our goal is 0 unless busy time of year. So for our clients, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, we work with a lot of e-com brands. Man, we're going to work more than 40 hours. But everybody knows it, right? Like, it's okay. Some of the other things we've done, we created a fund, the Finch Disaster Fund. So if something goes on, we've got a global team, right? Natural disaster, somebody has an unexpectedly large medical bill, because that happens. We pull from the fund, which is funded through our profits, to provide for our team. But the other thing that we've done too, Neal, is we will provide for the communities where our teams live in those situations. And so we add to that fund every year and we keep growing it, because we can't just stop at the doors of our staff members' homes. There's this idea, right? Like, is business fundamentally about a select few, or is it actually for the benefit of all? And
Yeah.
our belief system is that businesses are built for people and not for spreadsheets. And so whenever we do what we do, it's always thinking about how do we make the world a better place and how can we create a new norm for how people do their work. And so
Yeah.
it's a passion, man. We do it all. It's how we live and breathe.
And so I hear that. And then in my research, I just want to ask you, Dave, I know you mentioned transparency is key for you personally, but
Yep.
also for the business, for your clients, with family, friends, everything there. I want to ask, so we're looking at and we're learning, we're hearing about how you are running Finch and what you believe in. You've
Mm-hmm.
shared in other interviews, other podcast episodes about a health scare at an earlier age. How did that impact this viewpoint and the man that is Dave Valentine and what he's building and how he leads and shares and builds for the team and community and what he thinks about business? Did that impact any of your decision making where you are now and with what you're continuing to build?
Ooh, yeah. So brief background. In 2017, it was my first business. We did 7 figures. Only 1% of marketing agencies in the US achieve a 7-figure year. So by every measure, we were successful.
Right.
I had a good team, things were growing, and I went to the doctor and he said, "Hey, we have tested 40." I was about to be 30, right? And the doc said, my wife was like, "Hey, you should probably get a checkup or whatever." And so did a stress test amongst many others. Doc came back and said, "Hey, we've tested 4,500 people. You win. You're the most stressed out person we've ever tested," right?
Now,
Which is
hold on,
crazy.
Dave, right there. Did you feel it? I mean, and this is, and the reason I ask this, did you feel that stress?
I did. Right? Because I did not have the same demeanor that you see right now, Neal. Right? This has been born out of the past 8 years of work. But I would really, I mean, this is how I worked my day. This is not healthy. Just saying that up front.
Disclaimer. So you all are hearing Dave Valentine. This is a Dave Valentine book of how not to do it. Go ahead, Dave.
I bought into the hustle culture thing, right? Like just work more hours, and keep going, keep pushing. So I would start my day at 5. I would not work out. I would drink at least a pot of coffee a day, sometimes a pot and a half. I mean, this is real. And I would drink coffee until the afternoon, where I would decide when to start drinking, when to have a beer, basically. I'm still working, by the way, this whole time. And I'd shift from doing productive work in the morning to doing creative work in the evening, because alcohol could be helpful for that. And so as the doc told me this, and he started telling me about, hey, you need to cut back on caffeine, you need to cut back on alcohol, you need to be thoughtful about what you're doing for exercise. You got to find, by that time I had lost my faith, which is, again, part of why this is humorous. So I'd stopped praying and meditating. So I started bringing meditation back into my life. I started working out again. I set very small, attainable goals at first, by the way, Neal. So as I thought back on it, I was like, oh my gosh, there are days where I'm not even having a single glass of water. No wonder my body's stressed out. It's dehydrated, right? Drinking coffee and alcohol, that's terrible. So I started going, hey, you have to drink 1 glass of water and you have to go exercise for at least 5 minutes. Just go on a walk for 5 minutes every day. Now, most of the time I walked for 30 minutes or an hour and I drank 6 cups of water because I was like being thoughtful about it now, right? But there were some days where it'd be like 10:15 at night. I'd gone to a networking event and I had been up since 5 and I was like, dude, I just have to go walk for 5 minutes. Just go get it in. And that's what I would go do. And so the things that have changed since then, I'm a much healthier person. I moved from the suburbs of DFW to the middle of nowhere, right, in the Pacific Northwest. I go on walks in my garden every day. I work out 5 days a week. I have my own home gym, so I don't have to go anywhere, Neal. So that was part of my solution too, was like, man, I'm going to make this so easy that it's hard for me to say no. I got an infrared sauna in my workout space. I started to build my life around making sure that I was going to be happy and healthy. I started meditating more. I found mysticism as a helpful spiritual framework for me to navigate the world. And all of that coupled with really creating and crafting meaningful friendships, which is challenging for men. I'm saying this is to the audience for men. Hey guys, we are the biggest cause of death for men in this country aged 35 to 65 is suicide or deaths of despair is what they call them.
Yep.
Opiates,
Yes, sir.
alcohol, and drugs. We have got to figure out a way for us to connect as men that is meaningful. And so that's one of the other things that I've been up to as well, is just crafting those friendships. I actually have a friend here with his family this week. And so that's part of the game too, is just getting getting sincere about my workouts and my life habits. Yeah.
So, Dave, I want to ask you, because we're having a conversation, we're listening into the mind, where we're actually peeking into the mind of a guy who had a 7-figure year in the business, was probably as unhealthy as he could be, goes in knowing that something is going on with himself, but at the advice, the push of the missus, as many of us have to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying, okay, but that's my dream. I'm here listening to Dave right now. I could deal with the stress. My dream is to have that 7-figure year. But now, after making adjustments, what we might have thought was your highlight, the peak, now we're saying now he's got it, because, and not out of arrogance or boastfulness, you're talking about your lifestyle now. When it's on the river and the bald eagles and the salmon and the garden, the infrared sauna. But that came as a result of making some necessary changes. So what would you say to that person who is chasing after not what you have right now? They're chasing
Right.
after that 7-figure year. Right? They're saying we want to go bigger. We want to let's have a 6-figure year. Right? What do you say to that person who is doing everything that you were doing the wrong way? They're reading that book. They bought into hustle culture. What do you say to that creative, that entrepreneur, that business owner today?
Back in 2016, 2017, 2018, I was frustrated repeatedly with something that I kept seeing, Neal. This is answering your question. And the thing that I kept seeing was the people that I rubbed shoulders with that were the wealthiest people that I knew, the people that I rubbed shoulders with that had the biggest businesses that I knew, had two common traits. One, they weren't that smart.
Hey, come on.
And two, they were super lazy. And so what I started to realize in 2017 was I had to do business differently, right? So I was going to every networking event I could do because I'm trying to get new clients and do the thing. I had a podcast that I was hosting back then. I was doing I was approving every single client strategy. I was looking at the creative. I did everything. And so what I had to figure out was, what are the things that only I can do?
Right.
Versus what are things that other people can do? Doesn't mean that I have the right people right now, by the way, but it could be done by somebody else, right?
Hold on, Dave. Dave said, hey, just to be clear, people, it was an aspirational. It doesn't mean that someone else could do it today, because they might be the wrong people for the job, for the responsibility, but it's doable by someone other than Dave himself.
That's it, man. And so when I got down to it, I'm like, the things that I can do that no one else can do are like so small. And it's like a list of 5, 6 things. So everything else shouldn't be on my plate. And I started to create it was an internal mantra. This is good to share with your audience. But I was just like, all right, how do I be lazy and dumb? And so the two things that I did, man, was I really gave everything away that I could. And then the other thing, the being the dumb piece, was I simplified everything. I made
Dave, I do
everything
want to step
simple.
on your answer really quickly.
Sure.
Was that an easy thing for you to do? Was it easy for you to, and I'm not saying be dumb and simplify things, right? I'm saying, was it an easy thing for you to realize, hey, there's only 5 things that I'm only really valuable in these 5 areas? Or was it freeing for you because part of hustle culture, part of this entrepreneur flag or being the owner and the builder is that, hey, I built this thing. I'm the one, like, it's on my back. Was that an easy switch for you? Easy realization? Was it humbling? Was it freeing? I'm just curious because I know that there are people who want to go beyond the velvet rope as you have. And they're like, well, I would love to be lazy and dumb, but it's like, this is my badge that I get to wear.
Yeah, I'd have it. I love that question. I did have to look myself in the eye and say some things that were hard to hear, right? Like I actually did this. I went and stood in the mirror and I talked to myself. This is weird, but I feel like we can go there. And I asked myself a question, staring into my eyes. Do you care more about being the smartest person in the room than you do about making the business as successful as possible, right? Do you care more about being the guy, or do you want to make more money so your family has an easier life?
Well, sir.
Right? So, like, let's be real. I get it. I had to do it. And when I got down to it, I just went, I don't care who does it. We just have to do some things differently. Because I don't want to. I mean, my doctor told me, he's like, you're not going to see 40. You keep going like this.
Well, then, wow.
Right? So you look at it and you go, okay, well, I got to make some moves. And then I had a friend that passed like 6 months later. He was 32 and he had died from a heart attack. And so I think that there's this thing, Neal, where like it was a challenge because I was used to doing it my way. It was a challenge because I have an exceptionally high standard for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had to create some rules. One of the rules that I created was if somebody can do it 80% as good as me, we're going to take it, right? We're going to accept that as passing.
Love it. I love it.
And then as the company got bigger, I was able to hire some A-player talent. Guess what? They were better than me. They were smarter than me, in that space. And I got to stay in my lanes that only I could hold. And the company went gangbusters. We did 8 figures, right? So I think it's one of those things where we hold on to it because of the ego. And by the way, there's a great book called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. I highly, highly, highly recommend it if you're listening and this is a struggle for you. Yeah, and I think that it's a challenge that we all struggle with. And I think that, again, it's that thing where it's like, I was afraid to let go because what will happen to the results? What's going to happen to and it's like, hey man, you don't make good decisions out of fear. So let's change this up.
Okay, so Dave, before we close out this episode, I do want to pivot for a moment and go back to the business side of things. Thank you for your transparency, for opening up, because I think this is the stuff that life is made of, if we're being honest. So I want to talk about agency and client relationships, because you mentioned maybe someone has been burned or it didn't work. They're with a smaller agency and now they want to experiment. You have that product, that program where they can try it out for $1,000 a month for 6 months. But in your opinion, what makes an agency-client relationship actually work?
Ooh. I think that the thing that makes it work is setting appropriate expectations. The biggest
By
thing
who?
Well, honestly, the agency should set them. The challenge is, though, Neal, and this is a real challenge, we record every single conversation that we have with clients because I've been burned a couple times. Okay. Now, here's what's crazy. We put together documents that like spell out, here's what's going to happen. So they sign the agreement, right? Then they get a document. It's like, here's what's going to happen for the first 90 days. And it spells out week by week, here's what you can expect. We even put in there what our expected results are based off their industry, based off how much they're spending. It's in writing.
Right.
There will still be times where a client will come back to us and say, but I thought we were going to have XYZ happen by week 3. And it's like, let's look back at the document. Let's look at all the recordings we have. We have never said that. That is in your brain. That is not something that we put there. And so there is that level of, you have to not only receive that from the agency and go, okay, they are telling me this is what they expect. Therefore, I either need to say, yes, that is reasonable, or we need to cancel this relationship because I can't afford whatever they're saying. right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same. I mean, you and I are both married, man. I sit down with my wife and I have we call them business meetings. We actually call them the global domination meetings,
I
but
love it. Let's go. Come on.
it's a business meeting, man. We talk about we got 3 kids under the age of 13, activities, all the stuff that's going on that week. We talk about, hey man, what's going on with the budget? How are we spending? Are we hitting our financial goals? We talk about our investments. We look at that once a month. We sit down and go, hey, how are our investments doing? Where are we getting money coming in? All of that is a way for us to really move the ball forward. So when we think about kind of what we have going, it's always this conversation of how do we push forward in a way that the expectations are aligned. And I think that's true for agency and client relationships as well, man. It's just like we have to be on the same page. And then if we're not on the same page, let's meet. Let's get on the same page. Let's move forward together. And I think that those are the biggest reasons why agency client relationships don't work out, is a misalignment of expectations and how to move forward.
Good stuff. So I'm going to continue based off of a statement you just made. How cool is it, right, to have a partner, to have a spouse to do life with, that you can have a conversation with, and when you're having those times where you might need to lean on, or we as men might need to be reminded that we're knuckleheads, how cool is it to have this thing where you can go back and forth and know that the ultimate goal is not you or me, but is we, and global domination is the goal, if we're being honest, man.
Yeah, man. I'm going to say this with the utmost sincerity. Politicians aren't going to save us, y'all. They're just not. I don't care what team you vote for in the U.S. They're not going to save us. And the reason why I know that's because it hasn't happened yet. And that's why I keep going, man. We need the small business owners to just be like, we got it. And that's why, like, man, anytime that I can help any business owner, I'm there. Like, I have people, men, women, every sort of person, background, history. They will call me. They will text me. I had a guy last week. He hit me up. He's like, dude, I got a business partner that's suing me about this thing. He's a guy in Baltimore. He and I chatted, and I was like, hey, man, here are the things you're going to do. You're going to do X, Y, and Z. He did those things. Everything went away. And he's like, bro, they're going to pay me to buy me out now. And I was like, sick. He goes, I don't know what to do. I was like, what a great question. Right? It is global domination. My wife and I have the same mind, man. We want to see people find wholeness in themselves and be successful in their businesses. And so we look at it as our mission to help more people.
I love that. So, Dave, I have a closing question, and then we're going to have some fun together. For someone listening who wants to simplify growth, scale with purpose, what do you believe is the best place for them to begin? Right? They want to grow, but they want to simplify, they want to scale, but with purpose. Where should they start, Dave?
The first thing is you need to find a lead generation and or traffic generation, depending on if you have an e-commerce site or you have a physical store location or you're doing B2B. You can find your modality here. Find that marketing channel that's going to give you that website traffic, that foot traffic, that lead generation. One of the things that I mistakenly did in the first business, Neal, was I kept listening to all the gurus. That told me, you should be doing this sort of ad funnel and you should do this sort of thing. And what I realized, man, was like, that was never my jam. My jam was to give value up front, right? So what I would do is, and this is what I figured out years and years and years ago, I'd email people and I'd say, hey, I've got some ideas of how we could take your social media advertising to another level. I'd love to give you those ideas for free. Would you give me 10 minutes and I'll share them with you? It was a cold email. And that's how we grew the business crazy. And that's how I got Fortune 500 companies to work with us. Target, Time Magazine, Bell Helicopter. They worked with us because I gave them something for free and they found it valuable, right? So I did what everybody told me not to do. I had mentors who were like, don't give away for free. That's valuable. And I'm like, no, man, this is me. So you got to find what works for you. And that's really the game.
Absolutely love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dave Valentine here with us on Beyond the Velvet Rope podcast. First, thank you for your time, your energy, your transparency. It has been refreshing. I did not tell you we were going to do this day, but I have a handful of rapid fire questions. You're a vet to this thing, so there's nothing that can surprise you. Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Because we're going to be easy now. Dave, I do want to make sure that this is recorded, and I say this. You are not legally obligated to answer any of these questions, All right. So first, favorite color.
Ooh, blue.
Why?
I've loved it since I was a kid, man. I just love blue. Like it's one of, I don't know, like it's just a color that when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I love it. Like it makes me feel warm and fuzzy. Neal, what's your favorite color?
Purple, royal purple, color of royalty. Only
Yes, I
kings and
love
queens
it.
around here, baby. That's it.
Let's go,
Now,
man.
Dave, you breaking the rules. Listen, man, I'm supposed to be asking you the questions. This is not a dialogue anymore, man. So Dave, favorite food?
Tacos.
Tacos.
Man,
Do you
dude, look, I grew up all over the country. I'm a military brat, right? But my family's from Texas, so we do not have great tacos in the Pacific Northwest. I know that
That was
sounds,
my next question. I heard you say from DFW. You were down there in DFW up there to the
yeah,
northwest. Come on, man.
no, but yeah, man, tacos are that's where it's at.
Okay. Superman or Batman?
Man,
Now, there was a pause there. Why did we go with Batman?
so we went with Batman because he's just a guy.
Come on, sir. I'm not
He's just a
surprised you
guy.
would say that. He's just a guy. Hey,
Yeah,
so he's working with what he's got. I'm
that's
just a
right.
guy.
He's just a guy.
Okay, Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny?
Bugs Bunny.
Why Bugs Bunny? I was curious because I know you say your age and everything, but I'm like, I ask many of my guests that question. They're like, who's Bugs Bunny? And I'm like, you should not be a guest on my podcast.
Whoa.
Right? So
Bugs.
why Bugs Bunny?
So Mickey was not like inherently as funny as Bugs was, right? Bugs was always like Bugs takes the let's take life sincerely, not seriously, very much, right? Like he's like, dude, oh, you're gonna come at me, Elmer Fudd? Cool, I got you, dude. Like, watch this, you know. And so, like, I love that mischievousness, man. And yeah, Mickey's fine, but Bugs is more fun.
Cool thing. Could you imagine if the happiest place on earth was where bugs lived instead of Mickey Mouse? I mean, we're
Gosh,
experiencing a totally different universe. Would you agree?
I'm preach, man, preach.
Okay, so a nickname that only your family calls you.
Ooh, DB. So I've got three middle names, man. So David Bradley is my first two names. So they called me DB forever because my uncle's name is Dave. And so even now when we have family gatherings, man, it's DB all the way.
Okay, I thought we had some football prowess come through, and coming and you talk about growing up in DFW. I about to say, tell me the story. How like are you that nice on the field? I was just curious, sir. Okay, favorite book.
Oh man. Ooh, favorite book. Ooh. It's right here. I think that this one's my favorite because I read it at least once a year. It sits on my desk. Usually I read it more than that. And I give these out to people all the time. It's a book by a guy named Ram Dass who grew up Jewish outside of Boston as Richard Alpert. This book is called Grist for the Mill, and it's a collection of mystical thoughts and ideas. Basically, he grew up Jewish in Boston, went on an excursion to India where he met a Hindu guru, and the Hindu guru told him all about Christ the whole time. It's a fascinating story. It's a wild tale. He's an interesting character, and it's super. People laugh, man, but for a long time, I gave that book out to every staff member that joined the team because I said, this book taught me more about business than any other business book I read. And they look at
Wow.
me like, what? But some of the people that have read some of his teachings and thoughts and stuff, Ben and Jerry's, this is the big one, but Steve Jobs was a huge follower of Ram Dass's teachings as well. Bill Gates, a lot of the people that have created foundationally different kinds of businesses that are trying to think about how they're impacting the world, they have some connection to him. So really,
Grist
really
for the
recommend it.
meal, Ram Dass. So I will thank you for that recommend. So
Absolutely.
that was my selfish question, right? As an avid reader, I'm always like, what are movers and
love it.
shakers and
I love
creators?
it.
What are they reading? And how can I ask this? So I slid that one in. That one's for me, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to do anything with that one. My second to last question. One talent that you wish you had that you currently do not.
Dude, I wish I could fly. I wish I could fly like Superman. That's all I've ever wanted, dude, is to fly like
Are you
Superman.
like so you're wanting to like physically just and just take off?
Dude, if I have dreams about it. Like it's a recurring dream that I have that I can fly like Superman through the sky. It's the best. I do meditative practices where I think about it. I know it's so silly, man, but it's so fun to me.
Come on, sir. Now, I absolutely love it. And here's what I love the most about it is that where it took this on you, I mean, it just put this big old smile on your
Oh,
face,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so David's like, oh, the day I fly, everyone will know because I'm not coming
Yeah.
down. He says,
That's
baby
right.
kids, I love y'all, but I got to spin the globe a couple of times,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
And then my last question for you, Dave. When you're no longer here on this spinning orb that we call Earth, what do you want your legacy to be, sir?
Love. It's all about love. Love overcomes fear every time.
Simple but profound. Man,
Mm.
I tell you what, I think you're doing a great job. I think you're doing a fantastic job, and you're well on your way to being the laziest, dumbest person at the table in the room. And we are better for it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning into this episode of The Big Life. I'm sorry. Beyond the Velvet Rope. The Big Life, that's my other podcast. You all can check that out with me and my guy, Robin Lewis. See, look, I'm so into Dave Valentine. He's got my mind working. But here's what I want to say, Dave. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to check out the show notes. All of Dave's contact info, as well as with the work that he's doing with Finch, is going to be in the show notes. You're not going to want to miss it. Is there anything you want to say to the audience before we kick them out of here, Dave?
Yeah, just anybody, if you want to take us up on that offer to run your advertising for $1,000 a month for 6 months, hit me up, Dave Valentine at Finch.com. Mention the show and the headline of the email, and we'll get you hooked up with that.
Man, that is absolutely fantastic. Dave.Valentine at Finch.com. Dave.Valentine at Finch.com. Be sure to go and take advantage of this opportunity because you would be working with one of the same agencies that many Fortune 500 companies are working with at a fraction of the cost. So you get to test them out. They're actually putting their mouth or they're putting their money where their mouth is. And so I want to leave you as I always do, and that is that I love you. God loves you. There's nothing you can do about it. And until the next time I see you or you see me, don't be average, be world renowned. Peace.